Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to your online lecture series of EE222 Microprocessor Systems. I am Dr. Maimun Sajid from Faculty of Electrical Engineering, and this is your lecture number 26, second lecture of week 9. In this lecture, we will be discussing the assembly language programming of PIC18 microcontrollers. Before going to the actual programming, let me give you the tentative lecture plan we will be following for the rest of the semester. So there will be 3 recorded video lectures of 30 to 50 minutes each. Question answer session with students will be arranged via MS Teams chat. Separate chat rooms for each week have been created for better organization. Questions needing further explanation in addition to chat will be addressed in the next video lecture. Bi-weekly online live interactive sessions may be arranged to facilitate students if required. Live sessions will also be recorded and will be available for those who were unable to attend the session. At least one assignment will be given every week that could be mandatory and that could be graded. Student attendance will be recorded through Microsoft Teams forms. 2 or 3 days will be given after the lecture is uploaded, and the student will have to answer a simple question from that lecture. And if the student is unable to answer the question within 2 or 3 days, then I will assume that the student has not watched the video and will be marked absent for that class. In Microsoft Teams, I have created your classroom for EE222 microprocessor system. You can get all the course related materials in the Files tab. As you can see that all your previous quizzes, their solutions, midterm, their solution, lecture 1 to 16, your marks, reference books and data sheet and all the lecture notes are available under this Files section. Your assignments would be uploaded and received via the assignment section of EE222 microprocessor systems classroom. Your attendance will be recorded through this tab, the attendance tab that has been created inside each week. So attendance for lecture number 25, 26 and 27 has been created under the week 9 channel. In addition, there is an optional feedback with each attendance form that is not mandatory for every student to fill out, but I would prefer and I would appreciate that if you can give your precious feedback along with the attendance. That will be very helpful for me to improve my lectures in the future. The course contents for this course are listed here. The portion in green has already been covered. This highlighted portion in blue is under process, and the parts in red are yet to come. Based on the course contents, we have already completed our CLO1 and CLO2 before your midterm exams, and currently we are under progress with our CLO3. The statement of your CLO3 is that the students will be able to use the instruction set of PIC18 and apply the techniques used in assembly language programming, that is mapped with PLO2, and it is on application level in Bloom's taxonomy. So in this lecture we will be targeting the CLO3 and we will be using the assembly language programming of PIC microcontroller using the standard instruction set of PIC microcontroller. Let me give you an overview of the instruction set first, and then we'll start using the MPLAB-X IDE for programming the microcontroller. Coming to the instruction set, the standard instruction set of PIC18 F4550, we know that we have 4 types of instructions in this instruction set: byte-oriented operations, bit-oriented operations, literal operations and control operations. Most byte-oriented instructions have 3 operands. the file register specified by the field F, the destination of the result specified by the field D, and the accessed memory specified by the field A. A specifies whether we are using the bank select register or the access RAM. Now let's jump to the instruction table itself. Here you can see the basic standard instruction set of PIC18F 4550. Starting with the byte-oriented operations, we have instructions like add, subtract, clear, complement, increment, decrement, move, etc. And the common thing is that they all involve the field F, as you can see here in the highlighted portion. F stands for file register. So all the byte-oriented operations are performed on a data in any of data memory, in any location of data memory specified by the field F, file register. We call it file register in PIC architecture. Then we have bit-oriented operations. Bit-oriented operations also have the same field F in all of the instructions associated in this category. So this means that the bit-oriented operations are targeted for any of the registers in the data memory. They can be special function registers and they can be general purpose registers, but they have to be some in the data memory, and the address field F is there in all of them. The address field B in case of bit oriented operations points to the specific bit that needs to be cleared, set, toggled or tested. Then moving on to the control operations. The program control operations are comprised of commands like branch, jump, call, return, etc. Then moving on to the final category, that are literal operations. They involve literal data. They do not involve any address field F, D, A, etc. But they have only one field, and that is the literal data, an 8-bit data that can be moved into any location, or that can be added, odd, ANDed, or multiplied with the working register. Using this standard instruction set of PIC microcontroller, today we are going to make some simple assembly language programs to toggle some port bits. We'll be using MPLAB X IDE integrated development environment for this purpose to write the code, compile it and burn it onto the development board that we'll be using in our labs. As the students will not have access to the hardware, we'll be also using Proteus to simulate our codes on a virtual design. So let's start with MPLAB X. So this is the first screen you will be seeing after you have installed the software and run the program. I'll close the start page. There is no project right now in the left panel, so we'll create a new project. This is a standalone project, so we don't need to change anything here. Just click next. Then we'll select our device. As I said that we'll be using PIC18F 4550. Just write it in the device part and select it from the drop down menu. Then click next. Then the select tool is optional. If you just click next, it's going to work, but as I'll be using the development board in hardware, I'll specify the programmer that is embedded into that development board, and that is PicKit2 that can be found in alternate tools, and here we can find the PicKit2. So I'll select the PicKit2. You can skip this part as it is optional because we will not be using any hardware. Then click next. This is an important option to select a compiler. There are various options in my computer, you can see here. You may not get all these options, but definitely you will have this one option, MPASM. MPASM means the MPLAB assembler, compiler for the assembly language. Other options are XC8 and Hightech C18, Pro and Standard. These are used for C language programming, so we will be using them later, but for now, as we are programming in assembly language, we will be selecting the MPASM assembler. When we click next, the last step is to give your project a name. So I'll give this project the name of lecture number 26. The project folder is specified. You can change the project location as per your choice. The current folder automatically selected is good for me, so I'll just click finish. Now we can see that the project has been created, but if we expand these, there are no files added to this project. Our interest is the source file, because we will be writing the program in the source file. So we can add an existing source file to the project, and we can create a new source file for the project. Let's assume you are installing this software for the first time. You don't have any existing source file, so let's create a new source file. That can be created by right clicking, new, and then selecting from many options that are available. As I said earlier that we will be programming in assembly language, so I will choose assemblyfile.asm. After clicking this, a window will pop up and that will ask you for the file name. Again, I'll write lecture_26 as the file name. Project is also lecture 26, and folder, I can choose this file to be placed in a specific folder, but if I don't choose any folder, it will be created inside my project folder, and that is shown here. Then just click finish and your lecture 26 ASM will be opened. From here we have to start writing our program, but before going on to the actual programming, let me give you a review of how to calculate delays in PIC microcontroller using assembly language programming. For PIC microcontroller, we know that one instruction cycle is equal to 4 clock cycles. What this means is that every instruction would take at least one instruction cycle or 4 clock cycles to execute. Some instructions may take more than one instruction cycles. In PIC, we have instructions that take or consume up to 3 instruction cycles. 4 clock cycles mean that whatever your crystal frequency is, 4 complete timing cycles will be consumed. Let's suppose we have the crystal frequency equal to 4 megahertz. What this means is that one timing cycle of crystal will be equal to 1 over 4 megahertz, the time period, because f is equal to 1 over t, or 0.25 microsecond. If we have a crystal or clock of 4 megahertz, each timing cycle will consume 0.25 microseconds, and each instruction cycle will consume 0.25 into 4, 1 microsecond. So one instruction cycle will be equal to 4 into 0.25 is equal to 1 microsecond for a clock of 4 megahertz. Now let's say we want a delay of 0.5 seconds. 0.5 seconds is equal to 500,000 microseconds. This means that we need 500,000 instruction cycles to get a delay equal to 500,000 microseconds. What this means is that we have to see how many instruction cycles our particular command is consuming, and then accordingly we'll execute that command for a certain number of times to get 500,000 instruction cycles out of that. Referring to your instruction set of PIC18F4550, the command of decrement file register and skip if 0 consumes normally one instruction cycle, and it consumes two instruction cycles if the next instruction is skipped. Otherwise, normally it will consume one instruction cycle. So if we ignore this two instruction cycle for now, we can roughly estimate how many times we have to execute this instruction to get a delay of 500,000 microseconds. For that, we'll have to make a loop. But we know that an 8-bit controller cannot count more than 256. This means that we cannot make a single loop of 500,000 count. We have to divide the number 500,000 in multiples of 255. For now, I'll take it to 50 to keep the calculation simpler. Dividing once, it gives me 2000. 2000 is still greater than 250, so I'll again divide it. This means that we'll get 500,000 count by making a nested loop of 250 into 250 into 8. All of these numbers are now within the limit of the maximum count of an 8-bit register. So how are we going to make this nested loop? 250 into 250 into 8. First of all, we will equate, let's say, R1 to location number 00 in the memory, R2 to location number 01, and R3 to location number 02. I'm just giving these memory locations as these labels. This labeling will just make it easier for me to write the code in real time. Now we'll have to load these registers, these three registers with these three values. To load a register with a literal value, we have to go through the working register because we don't have a command of move LF. It does not exist. So we'll have to first load the literal value to the working register. That literal value will be 250. Now 250 is loaded into the working register. Then we have a command of move WF, move working register to the file register R1. So R1 is loaded with working register that had 250. As R1 and R2 are same, so I'll again load move WF R2. R2 is also equal to 250 now, and then I'll move LW8 and move WF R3. So R3 is now equal to 8. From here we can start making our loop. I'll keep decrementing one register until it becomes 0, and then I'll check the other register, decrement it and check if it is 0 or not, and if it was not 0, I'll reload the first register and keep decrementing it. Let's write it on the next page. I'll change the sequence intentionally. You will know why. Move LW8, move WF R3, move LW 250, move WF R2, move LW 250 and move WF R1. Now decrement a file register and skip the next instruction if the file register becomes 0 after decrement. Which register? R1. Initially R1 had 250, so after decrementing it, it would become 249, that is not equal to 0. So it will not skip the next instruction. What should be the next instruction? Simply go to again 1. This loop will keep decrementing R1 and checking if it is 0, and if it is not 0, it will keep decrementing it again until it becomes 0. So this loop will run 250 times until R1 becomes 0. Once it becomes 0, it will skip this instruction, go to again 1 and go to the instruction here. Here I can write decrement file register and skip if 0 R2. Now again R2 was 250, so R2 becomes 249. When R2 becomes 249, it will not skip the next instruction. That next instruction would be go to AGN2. Where is AGN2? What do we want to do? If R2 is not equal to 0, we want to reload R1 again with 250, run this loop for 250 times again, and then decrement R2 and check if it is 0 or not. So my AGN2 will be here, reloading R1 with 250, then decrementing R1 to 49, go to again. So again this loop will be executed for 250 times once again. After this 250 loop is finished, it will come to R2, decrement it to 48, and then we'll jump again to this location, keep decrementing R1 for 250 times. This means that this loop will be executed 250 into 250 times until R2 becomes 0. When R2 becomes 0, it will skip this instruction and will jump to this location. What do we want at this location is to decrement our third register, the third level in the nested loop, and go to AGN3. Where is AGN3? Now I want to reload both R2 and R1. So if it is not 0, if R3 is not 0, like it was 8 previously and now after decrementing it once, it becomes 7, so this is not 0. So it will jump to AJN3 and AJN3 should reload both R1 and R2. Previously we were just loading R1. Now we want to reload R2 and R1 both. So my AJN3 label will be here. This means that this innermost loop will be executed 250 into 250 into 8 times, and that is equal to 500,000. Once R3 becomes 0, I'll just return from this delay routine. So let me call this subroutine as delay. Now let us check whether we have achieved the 500,000 instruction cycles or not, or have we gone beyond the 500,000 instruction cycles. Let me write the number of instruction cycles consumed by each of these instructions in green on the left side. This decrement file register and skip if 0 instruction takes 1 machine cycle normally and 2 machine cycles when it is skipping. So normally I will consider 1 here, but this go to instruction normally takes 2 instruction cycles. So 1, 2, 1, 2, and let's not consider this. How many times this instruction is being executed? Let me write in red. This instruction is executed only once. This instruction will be executed 8 times. This will be executed 8 into 250 times. This instruction, both of them will be executed 250 into 250 into 8 times. Then these instructions will be executed into 250 into 8 times. These two instructions will be executed 8 times, and this will be executed once. Now if we calculate the total number of instruction cycles consumed by this nested loop, what we will get? We will get 1 into 1 plus 1 into 1 plus 2 into 8 plus 2 into 8 into 250 plus 3 into 8 into 250 into 250 plus 3 into 250 into 8 plus 3 into 8. We get the result somewhere near 1510042. What was the requirement? 500000. So this is almost 3 times our requirement. Almost 3 times if we ignore the overhead 10042. Why is it 3 times? Because this loop is our innermost loop and that is our main loop, and this loop is executed 500,000 times, but this loop alone is consuming 1500,000 instruction cycles, because there are 2 instructions in the loop, not 1 instruction, and 1 instruction is consuming 1 instruction cycle while the other instruction is consuming 2 instruction cycles. So what we can do is we can divide our calculations by 3. That calculation was 250 into 250 into 8. So let's just divide it by 3, divide any of these numbers by 3 and use that number. We cannot get a very accurate delay using this technique. There will always be overheads. So this delay is only for the purpose where accuracy is not very important. If we are dealing with highly accurate waveforms or counters, we have to use the peripheral called timer that is built in into the microcontroller, and from that we can get very accurate delays. But for now, our aim is not to get an accurately 0.5 second delay. What we want is rather to blink an LED that should remain on for 0.5 seconds and should remain off for 0.5 seconds, so that we can easily observe whether our program is working fine or not. So even if the LED remains on for 0.6 seconds or 0.4 seconds, it wouldn't bother us much right now. So from here we'll move back to the MPLAB IDE and we will start writing our code. I would suggest you guys to copy this code, note it down on the paper, because we'll be making a similar code in our IDE now. Okay, now let's start making the program in MPLAB X IDE. Let's start the program by originating it from location 0 hexa in the ROM location. Then our program requirement says that we should define at least one bit of any port as an output port, because we want to attach an LED to that port and we'll have to blink that LED using some delay. We can choose any bit of any port, so I'll randomly choose port D0 as my output port to which my LED will be attached. To make port D0 as an output port, I'll have to clear the tri-state buffer associated with that particular pin. So I'll use the bit oriented operation BCF, bit clear of a file register. Which file register? TRISD, and which bit I want to clear to declare it as an output is bit 0. So what this command is going to do is to declare port D0 as an output. Then we want to start blinking the port itself. Let's make a loop again, and in this loop we'll first set the port D0, then we'll call for a delay of like 0.5 seconds as we calculated previously, and then we'll clear the bit port D0 and then call for delay again. After the bit is set, it will remain on for this particular delay, and then this bit is cleared, so it will remain off at this particular time, and then it should repeat this loop infinitely. So it will simply jump or go to again to make an infinite loop. Now all what's left is to make the delay subroutine. I'll refer to my program that we just made to write the delay. For that, I'll first have to equate the registers. R1 equate 00, R2 equate 01, and R3 equate 02. Now we can use them easily in our code. So let's start. Move LW8 move WF R3. I'll just copy paste it 3 times. Move load R2 with 250 and load R1 with 250. Then according to our discussion before, I'll give these locations labels AGN3, AGN2 and AGN1. At AGN1 we want to decrement the file register and skip if 0 R1. Go to again, then decrement file register and skip if 0 R2. Go to again and then go to AGN1, go to AGN2 and then decrement file register and skip if 0 R3. Go to AGN3 and after that return. After finishing this, we can end our program. Now let's try to compile the code we have written. One mistake here, as I told you earlier in the class, to declare decimal values we'll have to write D and the decimal value inside commas. So let me correct that. I think this should work fine. Let's try to compile this. For compiling your project, you can see here this icon, clean and build main project. So once you click this, your project will be compiled if there are no errors, but its build failed, so we have many errors in our program. There are some warnings, but they are mostly related to indenting. We can ignore them, but the errors here are crucial. So let's start with the first error. Here the error says missing arguments at line 7. So I'll just follow this. When I follow this, it takes me to this line and it is saying that there are some missing arguments. But if we check the data sheet, we have given all the required arguments absolutely necessary for this particular command. So there is something wrong, and that I figured out is that we have to include pic18f4550.inc. So after including this file, let's try to compile it again. Now clean is successful, but build fail again. Again it is saying missing arguments. So let's go here and see what's wrong. I can quickly figure it out that the comment that I gave here, I tried to give the comment using a double slash, but that is a general practice in C language. So if we replace it with a semicolon, that would be considered as a comment now, and I hope that now there will be no issue in compilation. So let's try again. Nice. Many warnings, mostly related to the indenting, but the build is successful. So now there are no syntax errors in the program we have just written. The next step is to include the configuration files to practically build this program and burn it on the development board. From where we can find those configuration bits and what configuration bits are, let's open the production window and go to set configuration bits. So once we click the set configuration bits, a window will pop up showing a number of configuration bits associated with PIC18F4550 microcontroller. Let me first tell you what are configuration bits. In any type of microcontroller, there are certain options that can be selected before running the program onto the device itself. What are those options? Like, from where the clock source will be coming? Would it be from the external crystal oscillator, or would we be using the internal oscillator built into the microcontroller? Some other options are to select the default configuration of certain pins of microcontroller. There are only 40 pins, the physical connections that are provided to the user in this IC package. But there are many functions that cannot be handled by 40 pins if we dedicate each function to a dedicated separate pin. So what's been done inside the controller is that many pins are multiplexed with many different functions, and we can select which function is to be associated with a particular pin. So we can choose and we can switch between these functions while writing the code, but some of the major selections can be done using the configuration bits in the configuration code. For now, we will not be exploring all the configuration bits associated with this controller. We will discuss them in detail in our next lecture, but the main configuration associated with today's task is the selection of our clock source. If I zoom in here, this is the oscillator selection bit, FOSC, and currently what is selected is HS oscillator. HS stands for high speed oscillator. If I select the HS oscillator, the controller will consider that the clock is coming from an external high speed oscillator. Right now we can either use the external oscillator or we can use the internal oscillator. PK-TNF4550 has a built-in 4 MHz internal oscillator. So if I select this option from the drop-down menu, the 4 MHz internal oscillator will be activated, while the external high-speed oscillator will be used by USB. We are not using USB, so we are not concerned about that right now. So let's select the high-speed oscillator because we are going to burn it onto the development board. In that case it will be okay, but we are also going to simulate it in Proteus, and in Proteus we need to specify the oscillator frequency again. So if we choose the internal oscillator, in this case there will be a conflict in case of Proteus simulation. The Proteus will try to set this configuration bit itself, and I have already set it to internal oscillator using the configuration bits, so there will be some issue in Proteus. All the rest configuration bits I am leaving for now. So after you select your desired configuration, if you go here at the bottom, there is a button that says generate source code to output. Once you click that button, automated code is generated, and you can just select all and copy this code and paste it in the beginning of your assembly language code that you wrote in the source file. If you note here that once the configuration code is generated, the library pktnf4550.inc is automatically included. So that's why I think I missed it previously. Now after including the configuration bit code, let's save the file and try to build it again. The build is successful without any errors. At this point our code is ready to be simulated or transferred or burnt to the practical hardware. If we go to the output, we can see that build successful, and then there is this line loading code from D microprocessor systems example. So this is the path where your final production.hex file has been generated. What is a hex file? We used .asm file as a source code, that is assembly language file, but after compiling, this hex file .hex is generated. A compiler converts the assembly language code to machine language code. A compiler for assembly language is also called an assembler, so that machine language, as we all know, that they are ones and zeros. So that hex file is the machine language code, and there are ones and zeros, or the hexadecimal values of all that assembly language code that we have written. So that machine language code has been generated, and we will use this hex file to simulate our code or to burn it to the microcontroller. Now first let me simulate the file. I'll open Proteus, then I'll place the component from libraries. Our component is PIC18F4550. So there is just one device associated with this model, that is good. Select OK and place it here. Now this is our controller. The good thing about Proteus is that this IC is already powered up. All we need to do is to enable it using this VPP MCLR bar by providing it a 5-volt input, and load our hex file to this controller and then simulate it. So first load the hex file. You can see here the processor clock frequency is mentioned here. As I told earlier, that Proteus tries to generate this clock configuration, this particular configuration itself. So that's why we are using a high-speed oscillator for now. I open the folder to load the file. I know where it is placed. If I remember correctly, it was in our microprocessor systems folder, examples, lecture_26, dist, default, production, and here is our hex file. The type is hex file, lecture26.production hex file. I open it, select OK, and the file is now loaded, or you can say virtually burnt onto that 18F4550 IC. The last thing to do here is to select a DC source, place it here and connect it to the enable pin, give it a value of 5 volts. Okay, we are good to go. Now let's try to simulate this program. Before clicking the play button, let me tell you that we tried to calculate the delay for 4 MHz clock for 0.5 seconds, but we later came to know that our calculations were 3 times the desired value. So that delay should be near 1.5 seconds. The LED port D0, you can see here, this is port D0, RD0, pin number 19. This pin should remain on for 1.5 seconds approximately, and then should remain off for 1.5 seconds. You can see here that this particular pin is blinking. Blue means off and red means on. I think it is around less than 2 seconds. We were able to blink an LED, a certain LED with a certain delay. So our simulation is successful. The next step here is that I try to load this program onto the development board and see if it is working there also, and if it is working in a correct manner. Okay, So here you can see our development board, and we have our MPLAB X IDE open right now. We can load or burn this program to the board using this icon pointing down, the arrow pointing down, and you can see that is written make and program the device main project. Once you click this icon, the compiler will build the program and will burn it onto the controller. See here, the target is running, programming is completed, and you can see here that this LED is blinking. It is blinking fast. Now let's change this value to 5 and let's see what happens. Now the LED time period would increase. You can see here that the LED is remaining on for a longer period and remaining off for a longer period. This is nearly equal to 1 second, and if we further increase it to 8 as we did in our calculation, let's load it and see if a delay of 1.52 seconds is achieved or not. If you have a stopwatch, you can measure that the delay is nearly equal to 1.5 seconds for each on and off cycle. So in this lecture, we have successfully calculated the delay and written a program in assembly language for PKTNF4550 to blink an LED connected to port D0 of the microcontroller, and we have simulated it in Proteus and we have burnt it on the practical hardware. So what you are required to do here for your assignment number 3 is that you have to make a program that will send 10101010 to all the ports for 1 second, and then send 01010101 to all the ports for another second. The port outputs should keep blinking alternatively for an infinite loop. Your simulation results will look like the following. Okay, so if you see here, this is your required simulation that you have to send me the code of. If you see here, some of the bits are not changing and they are gray in color. These bits have currently been assigned or they are multiplexed to some other function and they are not behaving like digital input outputs, so you don't need to worry about that. We'll discuss the function of each bit and each pin in detail in our coming lectures. But what you are required to do is to turn on half the port, alternate pins of one port at one time, and then turn them off and turn on the remaining ones. So just send me the code for this particular simulation, and if you have any questions regarding the current lecture, please send those queries along with your assignment and I'll try to address them in the next video lecture. Thank you. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.